guys, and welcome back to my page. As you probably noticed, I changed the name of my page from Books and Graphics a la Saber, I'm Saber, as you probably already know, to Ghastly Reads. I wanted to shorten the name of my page because I figured Books and Graphics a la Saber was pretty long, and I noticed after reading some books and thinking about what I like to read that I do tend to like some dark stuff, and I like spooky things and magical things. Not that ghastly tends to mean anything magical, but I couldn't think of a magical type name, so I decided to stick with the dark type theme and change my page name to Ghastly Reads. And I did go ahead and update my Instagram as well, and I don't know how to change the name of my Twitter, so I just updated my actual name, so I left it as Saber and then just put dash Ghastly Read. So I just wanted to let you guys know the thought process behind that, and I hope you like the new name, and I hope it makes it easier to find my page since I updated it and made it a little shorter and didn't include my first name. Although, from what I'm told, my first name's pretty cool, but it doesn't need to go into my YouTube name. So that is the thought behind why I changed my name, and welcome to Ghastly Reads. Anyways, as the title of this video says, this is going to be a July wrap-up. I know it is a little late, but originally I wasn't planning on doing one, and then I had a thought to myself. I do a lot of thinking, obviously, because I mentioned I was just thinking to myself, but I had a thought to myself about how I was watching some other booktube videos, and I wanted to actually give you guys the ratings and my thoughts on all of the books that I read, and not just in my mid-month wrap-up. So I am going to change how I do my mid-month wrap-ups, so please forgive me. I am new. This was my first full mid-month wrap-up video that I had done for a month since I started towards the middle of June, when I started in June. So please forgive me. I'm a newbie. I'll get better. But so, for officially the end of July, I ended up reading 12 books. So I ended up reading 12 whole books. I started 14 and didn't finish one until August, so I can't really count that. I read most of it in July, but didn't completely finish it until August, so I can't count it. My thoughts on Wallbanger, I ended up giving that 3 stars, and I did enjoy it in the first half. It kind of, once, so this is going to be spoilers for this book, just to tell you. Once they did finally get together, Caroline and Simon, I was kind of annoyed because I wanted it. It ended up being a romance, and I went in thinking that the book was going to be an erotic romance, with the title being Wallbanger. So the book is about this girl, to give you backstory. The book is about this girl who gets a new apartment. It's a really, really nice apartment, and then she goes to sleep that night, and her next door neighbor is having wall banging sex, banging the wall so much that at one point it knocks a painting off of her wall. It's either a painting or a picture off of her wall, and it knocks her in the head, causing her to flee from her bed and move her bed off the wall because it's shaking her bed, and she can hear night after night the women moaning and him moaning when they finish having sex. And it's really annoying. And then she goes and pounds on his door while she's wearing this pink nightie because she's angry. And I thought after that they were going to bang and they were going to be friends with benefits or something. And that's not what happened. They ended up becoming friends and yada, yada, yada. But after halfway getting through it, I thought it was going to be a story where they ended up becoming a couple and it was going to be a romance. And it just wasn't that. And I ended up giving it 3.5 stars as opposed to giving it a full 4 or a full 5. And it was because of that, because I did enjoy Caroline's character, although she was, the typical romance character, which I'm fine with because that's fine to me. I don't mind cliche characters, and it happens a lot in romance books, so that's not a bother to me. And since I'm getting back into romance, I know that that's a thing, and that was never a thing that bothered me when I read romance in high school or when I was younger in age. Um, so I did end up giving it 3.5 stars because I wanted more relationship development with them as a couple as opposed to just them as friends, and that really bothered me. And I didn't love the Simon character at first. He kind of grew on you, but he was a little too sweet in certain parts, and I really wanted more development with them as a couple. And I didn't like the side romances with their friends. It was really unnecessary. And the two male friend characters, their characters were so bland. I kept getting them mixed up. I still don't know which one is Neil and which one is Ryan, so I couldn't give it a full. Maybe I honestly might have given it 2.5 stars and rounded it up to 3. I'll have to check and see what I put on my review, and I'll put the stars down below. And then Sour Candy by Keelan something. He's Irish. Great author. I'm so going to read more of his books. The book freaked me the hell out. So it is about this man. He's on the phone with his girlfriend, and he's at Walmart, and he's in the candy aisle looking at chocolate and talking to his girlfriend on the phone. He's supposed to be buying chocolate. Like, he's getting the orders from her to buy certain chocolates. And all of a sudden, there's a mom and her son at the end of the aisle in front of, like, the Chewies and sour candy. And out of nowhere, the kid starts screaming at the top of his lungs. And of course, parents are like, check your kid, instead of minding their own business, like they didn't ever have kids that threw tantrums. Anyways, not going to get into that. And then, the girlfriend makes comments on the phones, and he says that he's going to go off, but he doesn't. And he gets involved with the kid, and shit goes down after that, you guys. And I read it by myself, and my boyfriend was sleeping in the bedroom, and my stomach didn't feel good, so I didn't want to go to sleep yet because I thought I might have to use the bathroom. So I was like, oh, I don't want to go to sleep yet, and then wake up 30 minutes later and have to go use the toilet. So I decided to stay up. I think I stayed up for 30 minutes to an hour and read about half of it. And I was looking, because I read it on my phone. I was on my phone, looking over my shoulder, seeing nothing, being like, what was that in the dining room? Is that a little kid? Am I about to hear screaming? I'm scared because I didn't know what was going to happen with the kid. But what I thought was going to happen didn't. It was totally a different kind of story than I thought it was going to be, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was just his mind, the author's mind. Kellen, however you say his name. I'll look it up and learn how to pronounce it because I'm a stickler about that. But if you are into horror at all, I highly recommend that. Sour Candy by whatever the author's name is, as I always do. That picture will be right here. It is red with a creepy deer head man thing. It was so good, creeped me the hell out. And I'm never helping a screaming child, ever. Sorry, children. You might be something creepy. My life matters. But that one was good, and I gave that 5 stars. 4 or 5 stars. Pretty sure I gave it a full 5 stars. I don't see why I wouldn't have. Lady Killers Volume 1, I gave 4 stars, and Volume 2, I gave 5 stars. I liked Volume 2 way better. So Lady Killer is it's set in the 50s or 60s. I'm pretty sure it is set in the 60s. I get these time periods mixed up. I originally thought it was the 50s, but I'm pretty sure they mentioned, in the second volume, they mentioned the 60s. That kind of retro style where, there's housewives and stuff. That was still in the 60s. So she is a housewife, but she's secretly an assassin. It's basically like a serial killer because she's just hired to kill people and she enjoys it. So I did love the first volume. I love the artwork. I do still wish, like I put in my review, I wish that the blood would be red instead of black. And I'm not entirely sure if that is just a thing that they do in graphic novels. I don't always remember in graphic novels what they do for blood, and I want to say I've read some other ones and blood was black in those too, and I just have a preference. I wish it was red because I think it would be cooler looking, but that's just me. It's not that big of a deal. That's not why I might have like knocked part of a star off for that, but it's not that big of a deal. I just really enjoyed the storyline in the second one better, and it left me on a bigger cliffhanger than the first one did. I don't want to go too much into it without giving too much of the story away. Um, some things it's easier to give too much away, or it's harder to not give too much away with talking about it, like with Wallbanger, but Lady Killer, I don't want to give too much away without just telling you what the story is about. But you should check it out if you like stuff like that. She's, you know, typical housewife of that era, but secretly she's this BA lady who prefers to kill with knives over guns, and then there ends up being like a hit out on her and stuff, and it's just really cool. um strange pra- Strange Practice is about Greta Helsing, and she is a um, doctor for supernatural creatures, so ghouls and goblins, vampires, and stuff like that. And then it turns out in the very beginning, she shows up at a vampire's house because his vampire friend. And in this book, there's different types of vampires. Like there's vampire with an I and vampire or vampire. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but with Y. I don't remember what the exact differences are. I will have to physically read the book. I believe I gave this 3.5 stars. But anyways, she shows up at her friend's house because his friend got injured, and he got stabbed by this weird thing that they don't know what it is at the time. And he's not healing. He is a vampire and he's supposed to heal quickly, and he's not. He's sick like a human would be if they got stabbed, and that's not normal. And they have to figure out why, and the story progresses from there, and it's really interesting what happens. There are some things that bothered me a little bit. I listened to it on audio, so I rated it. I did give it 3 stars. I rated it, and I said on my Goodreads review that I was rating it with the fact that I listened to it on audiobook. I was rating it with that in mind, and I said that on there. The narrator was not good. She did not change her voices like at all for the characters. If she did, it was so slight that it was barely noticeable. She didn't pause between scene changes, or between scene changes or from point of views. So I was often confused when the point of view would change, and I would have to rewind it, or after a while I would just not rewind it and be like, okay, the point of view definitely changed. But most of the time I had to rewind it because I was confused. So I will have to physically read the book and give it a full proper review, because I feel like I would definitely give it 4 stars, and I knocked it down a star because I couldn't keep some of the characters apart. Like I couldn't in my mind understand who Fastida Kalon was and who the vampires were, because I was confused. And I don't know if that was because she used the same voices for the characters, or if that was because the author didn't put enough depth into the characters, or put enough backstory with the characters, or do enough character development. So I want to physically read the first book, because it is a series. It's either a trilogy or a series. I mean, I know a trilogy is a series, but it's either just a trilogy or is it a full series with more than that. As of right now, it's just 3 books that I for sure know of. But I'm going to physically read this first book and not listen to it on audio, because she was a terrible narrator. But I listened to it on audiobook because there was no way that I could get in all of the books for my readathon. Which, to backtrack, Wallbanger was for the F-a-thon. Sour Candy was for the Pop Culture Readathon. Lady Killer Volume 1 and 2 were for the Pop Culture Readathon, as was Strange Practice. Okay, and then next is Van Allen Legacy, and I think I forgot to re-rate this one. I read this back in high school, and right now I think I would just give it a 3 stars. I read this one both for the F-a-thon and for the Pop Culture Readathon, and I read Van Allen Legacy for the F book elitism prompt. And I forgot to mention when I read Wallbanger for the F slut shaming prompt. I read Sour Candy for a book with a supernatural or creepy feel. I read Lady Killer for the that was Sour Candy's on the Pop Culture Readathon. Lady Killer Pop Culture Readathon, I read that for the mystery or thriller prompt. Strange Practice was for the book with the undead vampires, and then there are also ghouls in there. And then Van Allen Legacy was also on the Pop Culture Readathon, and I read that for a book with supernatural creatures, and it has vampires in it. So Van Allen Legacy is the 4th book in the Blue Blood series, and the Blue Blood series is a book about vampires, but they have a different origin story, as in the vampires are fallen angels. And I don't want to go into it too much because it is explained really well in the book, but there is a vampire who is a half-blood, and that is not allowed, and her mother is in a coma because she chose to have a baby with a human. Like, she chose to marry human instead of being with her vampire's angel other half, and that's not allowed. But I absolutely loved this series in high school, and I never finished it. I stopped on the 4th one, and I think she had come out with them so quickly. Once I discovered them, I was like, I can't keep up, and just stopped. So I ended up buying, I already owned the 5th one, and I ended up buying the 6th and 7th one. And then I checked out from the library, like, the novellas in between, and I'm reading one of them right now. But I believe I gave it 3 or 4 stars, and for right now at this age I would give it 3 stars. 3 or 3.5. I'll update my Goodreads review. And okay, and then I read Something Is Killing the Children issues 1 and 2 for the Jurassic Park prompt, which is something that has to be on a coast or island, body of water, or island, and this is set on Archer's Peak. And it is so good. I cannot wait to read the rest of these. I checked it out on Hoopla through one of my local libraries, and I love it so much. It is so good. So this is set in the beginning of the first book. The boy is like telling this creepy story about how he saw something on his lawn, and then like he's having a sleepover with his friends, and he decides to tell them a scary story about how he saw this like monster or something on his lawn. And then they decide to go to the peak and see if they see something, and something kills all of them except the boy who told the story. And whew, it is graphic. It's really, really good. It's ghastly. It's a ghastly read. Crack myself up. But it is really good. I believe I gave both of these issues 5 stars. And then for a book that has magic, I read Fruits Basket Volume 1, and I really, really enjoyed it. I am going to read the second one this month, and I'm not really enjoying the second one a whole lot. Like, I do still like it. It's a lot more cute. I'm talking about the first volume and the second volume. It is less magic and more cute than I thought it was going to be, but I really like the story. I believe I ended up giving Fruits Basket Um, 4 stars. It was so heartwarming, and I love Toru Honda, and Kaio is my favorite character because I just love his character development, and his personal story progression is just, he's such a sweet character, and I think he's so cute. And Toru is so sweet. She's just so nice. Nobody in real life is that nice. Like, if you're nice, I'm sure you're really nice. If you read Fruits Basket, you'd be like, I wish I was as nice as Toru. She's just so sweet. The characters in the book are really well thought out, and I love this. I love the storyline. I do plan on keeping reading them. I do plan on keeping on reading them. However you should say that properly. Um, and we'll see what I keep thinking of them. And then, as I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, the 1 in a Million boy that got a full 5 stars, that book, I'm pretty sure I did cry. And I listened to that on audio, and I want to buy that book. 5 on 5 on 5 stars. If I could have gave it 10, I would have given it 10. I give it double 5 stars. That book was so good. Everybody should read that book if you like a feel-good book. It's about, I'm trying to remember her name because I want to say Maud, but that is from That Other Lady Is Up to No Good. So there is a lady named Ona Vidkis is how she always says her name, because she's originally from Lithuania, but she grew up in America. She has this little Boy Scout boy who is volunteering and helping her out with her yard, and then all of a sudden he isn't showing up, but then his dad shows up in his place and decides to help her out, and the story progresses from there. And then his mom shows up and is helping out with some things, and then the troop leader, I believe are what they're called, is involved in some things, and it's just such a good story. You get to hear a lot about Ona and what went on with her and the boy. What went on with her and the boy before he stopped showing up, and you get to hear about his dad and his relationship with the son and his relationship with his ex-wife, who is the mother. They're twice exes. Like, they were married twice and got divorced twice. I don't know how you would say that. Twice exes, twice removed from each other. But it was such a good book. The characters were very well thought out. I know I say that a lot, but they really were. I imagine that she took her time writing little mini stories or little mini biographies about each of the characters, because I bet if she threw them in any situation, she would have known exactly what each character was going to do, because that seems like what happened in the book. If I can't remember all of their names now, but if the dad was thrown in a situation, he reacted exactly what I thought he would have reacted. If the mom was thrown in a situation, she reacted exactly how I thought she would have reacted, or as a reader, how I would think that, okay, that's exactly how that character would react. It didn't seem out of turn. Like, when you read some books, the character's like, you reacted this way 3 chapters ago, and something similar is happening, you're reacting totally different. Why? What kind of character progression is this? It was, and my heart just felt so warm and loved and sad all throughout this book. And it was so good, and I can't wait to own it and put it on my shelf and read it throughout the years, or let people borrow it and read it and be like, you're gonna love this book, please read it. 5 stars. I also read issues 5 and 6 of Miss Marvel. So Miss Marvel is the newer set with Kamala Khan that came out in the earlier 2000s. I want to say like 2012 maybe. I might be getting the year way off, so don't quote me on that. I'll look it up and I'll put it below, because, like, put it down here, because I honestly don't remember for sure when it came out, but I want to say like 2012, 2014, somewhere around there, maybe 2016, somewhere in there. Anyways, I love her character, and I think her character is extremely important. I read that one for the F-a-thon, and I read it for the F theological fundamentalism prompt slash F religious intolerance, because Kamala is Muslim, so she practiced the Islamic religion, and I am agnostic, so I don't practice any religion. And I think her character is extremely important. Her parents are immigrants from Pakistan, I believe, and she is a practicing Muslim. And then she gets these superpowers in the first issue, and she's still kind of learning how to work them in the fifth issue, but she's getting better at them, and she's like even better at them in the sixth issue. And a new character is a character that we all know about is introduced in the sixth issue, but I don't want to go like too in depth because, you know, it's the fifth and sixth issue. I can't tell you too much about them, but I gave these both 5 stars. I've given every issue that I've read of these 5 stars because I think Kamala's character is extremely important. I think she is thought out. The author herself is Muslim, and I love that it is a own voices of sort. Like, obviously she's not, doesn't have powers. If she does, she's not going to go tell people because, you know, she'd get probed and stuff, but she's a Muslim herself, and I love the aspect of Kamala not being a traditionally white, blonde, Christian, or not religious woman, and she's just Islam practicing Muslim character. And I love that she's just having these like personal issues within herself, and she has to go to her, I don't know what the term is, what a Christian would call a preacher. I love the story, and I love her fighting, and she's getting better. And I think her character is so adorable, and her best friend is so sweet. And I think anybody should read this series, and 5 stars. I also read Elevation, and I read that for the Pop Culture Readathon, and that was for the read a book in your second favorite genre. And as I mentioned in my TBR video, I don't really have favorite genres, but if I were to pick a second favorite, I would put mystery thriller second to everything else. So Elevation by Stephen King, from reading the synopsis, it seemed like it would be a mystery thriller, and that book was about a man who wakes up one day and goes to weigh himself, and he weighs significantly less than he did before, but he looks exactly the same. He decides to grab a chair and go stand on the scale, and he still weighs the same, and he keeps losing weight. And when this came out, it came out in 2016, and this could have been like branded the feel-good book of the year. I was reading somebody's review, and that's what they said, and I wholeheartedly agree. It was mysterious. It wasn't a thriller, but it was mysterious. But I definitely gave this 5 stars, and I cried at some point in it because it made me feel so lighthearted and warm. And although it was a novella, I fell in love with the characters. Not in a, oh, I love you and I want to spend my life with you, but I fell in love. I wanted to know more, but the story did feel complete to me. I don't know how to like explain it in good detail. So in addition to him losing weight, he has neighbors who are lesbians, and that is told in the synopsis, I believe. And if not, you find it pretty early on, like within the first like 10 pages of the book. So it's not like a big spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. I'm quite sure it's in the synopsis of the book, because that is a big part of the book. And their relationship is troublesome and sweet at the same time, and his relationship with his doctor that he goes and sees. And I loved everybody's dynamic together, and issues in the town, and just how it ended. It just made me feel elevated. And I know that sounds so cliche, or not cliche, that sounds so cheesy because it's the title, but it is true. I will probably read that book once a year. It is probably so far my favorite of the year. That and Monday's Not Coming were probably my favorite. Totally on two different spectrums. Made me cry for different reasons, but I love that book so much. Next was Imaginary Friend, and I don't want to go in that one too much. If you want to hear everything I said about that book, you'll have to go to my mid-month wrap-up video, or request in the comments for me to do a full video review. But I did only give that book 2 stars. I might have given it 2.5 and rounded up to 3, but while I did like a majority of the book, once it got towards the ending of the book, I did not like it. But I will say the audiobook narrator, amazing. I want her to narrate all of the audiobooks that I listen to. Even if it's male character point of view, I want her to narrate it because she was amazing. And then the other F word, so that was directed towards teens, and I did know that when I got it, because I got it from it's a nonfiction book. I got it from the nonfiction section of my library in the teen section, and I DNF'd it because it was really directed towards teens. So as I was reading it, I'm a bigger girl, and I was like, okay, that'll be beneficial while I am, I'm fine with the way I look. Sometimes I do get down on myself a little bit, and I wanted to read a book that'll, uplift my spirits. I do want to lose a little bit of weight, but sometimes I need to be happy in where I'm at now so that I can be happy when I'm smaller, or you'll never be happy. And I believe that. So I wanted to read this book, but as I was reading it, I realized just how much it was directed towards teens. So it's an anthology, and it's short stories and essays written by different authors for teens. It was not written for me, and I just could not wrap my head around reading it. So I read the first 3 stories. The first 2 I liked, and then the third one, I just was like, this is so much for teens. I cannot read this. And I tried to read the next one, and I was like, this is also really much for teens. So I ended up giving it, I didn't rate it. I just wrote a review saying that I DNF'd it because I knew it was for teens, and that if I had any teen ask for a recommendation for a book like that, I would highly recommend that book. And tell them I didn't read all of it, but from what I did read, this would be beneficial to any teenager, male or female, because male, female, straight, gay, lesbian, black, white, Latina, Latino, or Latinx, indigenous, Asian, etc., because the main author of the book, who who got everybody to collaborate, made sure to include that. And she made sure to point out that when there are books like that, it's always from a fat white female's point of view, as opposed to anybody else. And I did like that, and it's one of the reasons I picked up the book. But I did DNF it because it wasn't for me, and I didn't need to read it. I'm above the age group that the information that I was getting from it wasn't really helpful to me as far as me being fat. The information that I got from the first story, which was from a gay white male, was beneficial to me in learning what he went through. And from the indigenous woman who had a story, it was beneficial to learn stuff about an indigenous woman. But if I want to learn about that, I will go and read a book written by a gay white male or a gay black male, or I will go read a book about indigenous people or about gay people. I won't read it in that format. Not a short essay directed at teens about being fat from that person's point of view, because it wasn't for me, and it wasn't my place to read it. Not my place, but I didn't need to read it. So that is what I read and finished or DNF'd for July. And I had mostly read An Elderly Lady Is Up to No Good, but I didn't finish it until August, so you will have to wait for that. But I did enjoy it, and I did finish it, so you can expect a review of that. And bye. Happy reading, you guys.